There's another tip I do want to give about drifting before I forget, because I know I will later. So this map in particular is called Seafoam Cove. So basically you see where that middle, behind these leaves over there, that you can see the starting line where the start of the race is. So basically you come running up through here, through the second checkpoint, and then up here is the third. By this third checkpoint, or just before it, there is a shortcut. It's a hard drift, and one thing to know is that the terrain is pretty bumpy. So when you're trying to drift through bumpy terrain, it's a good idea to get good at using your nose down and nose up inputs while you're drifting, okay? So, well, per se, it's nose down mostly, because you really want to keep to the ground as much as possible. It gives you an extra like 25-30% downward force, I guess you could say. So then that way you can kind of stay on the ground. It gives you like 25-30% downward force. So if you get too much speed, for example, let me try this. So let me try this right now. See, I'm just going to go. See, I started catching air just a little bit in that flicker of a moment. So if you're around like 700 kph trying to go up and use that shortcut, there's a good chance you're going to bounce up with too much speed and you're going to catch air. Now, when you nose down, it helps prevent that, but it has to be on the low end of like 700 kph speed. I just know that from experience. So, or if you also are falling behind from the catch-up mechanic, because if you just drift right and just hold right only when you land, you're just going to be at just normal drifting with no extra downward force when you're going around bumpy terrain, which increases your odds of bouncing up and catching air. So that's one thing to take note, because there are many maps where you may be on bumpy terrain, and the idea is to make sure you're pressing the nose up, the nose down input. So if you have up meaning nose up and down meaning nose down, then if you were doing this right drift, it would be down right, meaning bottom right. You'd be pressing to kind of pull down on your nose while you're drifting around this turn. But being default like me, I'd be doing it and then pressing nose up, okay? Well, I mean, yeah, up on my controller for nose down, okay? I just wanted to throw that in there really quick as a tip, that on bumpy terrain, it's very common for that to be an issue. I think there's a map called Pleasant Pit Stop where there's a hard grassy road that is hard for inexperienced players to nail, and that usually requires you to kind of do a nose down to keep the tension with your vehicle to the ground, all right? So I just kind of want to throw that in there really quick as an additional tip, because that is something that you may not realize will be a problem until later when you start becoming more advanced, okay? So, all right, with that, now we're going to move on